Hey, hello, and welcome to another edition of Lock Grooves. Tonight, I just wanted to show off a couple of my record crates. These are handmade and hand stained. They're made of oak and cedar. And tonight, about halfway through, we're going to take a little field trip, and I'll show you how these things are made. These aren't all that I have. These aren't all my records. But it's just a little example of what I keep my...
Okay,
my
here
records.
we are back at Lock Grooves headquarters. Now, I actually have received a couple of criticisms, some good, some bad on the show so far. One was they liked the dark set, which we're very dark. We keep this house like a tomb, cold and dark. And the other one was they didn't know anything I was showing. So this show is called Back to Basics. I'm just gonna show stuff that probably all of you know or kind of know or know the artist and maybe not the album, but we'll just kind of go back to not so much spacey, crazy stuff that you got to find on the internet to listen to. And then about halfway through, we're going to take a break and go build some boxes, some crates. So let's start off with this one, Tangerine Dream, Rubicon. This one, everybody should know Tangerine Dream. They're part of the krautrock movement. Came together in '69. I think their first album was Electronic Meditation back in 1970, and they really hit their stride with this album. Mid '70, I think this was '75, so mid '70s, and basically it's just a bunch of electronic droning. I mean, it's not meant to drive a car. I mean, this is to basically sit on your couch and sink into it and just kind of drone out, maybe for that half hour, 20 minutes that the side one is on, you'll turn into some furry animal, metamorphosize, and come back out of it. It's that type of album. You really have to get into it, but it's a classic. It takes a little while to get into it, but it's well worth it. Tangerine Dream, Rubicon. And here's another one on the space rock spectrum that we should all know about, or at least have heard at least one song off of this, and that's Children of the Sun by Billy Thorpe. Now, I only listen to basically side 2, and to me, that's one of the best pieces of music that I have. This is side 2. Every song flows right into the other, and he really knew what he was doing. He had it down. He was really trying to make a good album. I mean, he kind of known as a one-hit wonder, but the guy had some talent. If you get a chance and you haven't heard the whole thing, at least listen to side 2. It's got Children of the Sun, We're Leaving, We Welcome You, Solar Anthem, and The Beginning. It's very spacey. It's light space rock, it's not going to blow your mind, but it's fun. And what else we got? Oh, and I should say hi to Raymond, because he's the person that kind of inspired me to do this. So, and this one is for him. So, Metallica, and yes, I do have some metal in my collection. Back in the day, I was a big-time metalhead. But, it's hard to just stay on one genre. You have to expand and keep exploring, and next thing you know, I'm listening to Metallica and jazz, Alice Coltrane, and then I'll throw on Metallica. Who would have thought back in 1986, right? This album here was, I don't know if you would call it a comeback album, but I would call it a comeback. I think their last proper album before this was Saint Anger, and it just didn't register for me. I love this album. Some people, I don't know if they just didn't listen to it enough or what, but they said it wasn't a good album. This is good. It's got solos. I mean, the drum sounds good. You may disagree with me, but I heard the first song off their new album. Not too impressed, but you know, it's Metallica, so I will definitely play it a million times. I got to give them a chance. These guys are part of my teenage years. What do we got here? Now, you've heard of the guy, but you may not know who it is. This is Jeff Bridges, the actor. He put out an album, and it's this weird, trippy album of him talking and doing soundscapes and basically trying to put us to sleep. It's called Jeff Bridges Sleeping Tapes, and really, it will. If you listen to it, you will nod off to this thing. And it's just this bizarre, almost acidy spoken word album of him just kind of telling stories and putting himself in weird situations. It's just black vinyl. But really, I definitely recommend it. I think this was a charity album. So, Jeff Bridges. You might not have heard the album, but you have heard of the man, and it's worth tracking down, at least listening to. Try to put yourself to sleep. Now, last weekend I went to build a couple of crates. I've got some record. I still keep my albums in record crates, and I store them along the wall. But I do like a good record crate, and not just the kind you get from Staples. So I have a friend who is a master woodworker. A beautiful guy, great guy, nice guy. You guys are gonna love him. And I went over to his house, and with the intention on making a couple of crates because I needed a couple more. And so we filmed parts of it and made just a little montage of what it goes into making it. And really, you need a master woodworker. And anyway, so I hope you enjoy this little trip, and then we'll be right back, and I've got a couple more albums to show you. Hello, here we are at my friend Beck's house, and he is a master woodworker, and we're going to build some record crates today. Very excited about this. I can't wait to get started. How about you?
I'm ready. You just need to get your butt in gear and let's get it done.
Okay. As the man said, let's do this. We just cut a bunch of boards. It was nobody lost any fingers. There's no blood on the floor, so that's good. We've got all the pieces. Now we have to assemble them. And when we're finished, we're going to have a crate that looks just like this. And this is a crate that I keep most of my records in. So a little bit more to go, and we'll be finished.
You turn that damn thing off.
And you know, the final step to building these crates, I mean, if you want a real nice crate, I mean, I could have left it wooden, for example. When we finished, I mean, they look like this. But the last step is staining. And so that's what I'm doing now. I will see you soon with 2 finished boxes. So here we are with the 2 finished record crates that we worked on. Each crate will hold about 75 to 80 albums. And, you know, there's nothing like do it yourself. So go ahead, and if you can find a master woodworker, do it yourself. It's really fun. And we're finished. Did you like that? Beautiful guy. And don't worry, I didn't show you the varnish, but we did varnish the stain, so It's going to last long. It doesn't stink anymore. And they are in my collection. So I've got 2 more. I don't have any records in them at the moment. I haven't had time to do that. But I do have records to fill them up. So let's get back to basics. Blue Oyster Cult. Now, I've got plenty of Blue Oyster Cult in my collection, but I just kind of chose this one because it's a little off the radar. It's Mirrors. It's not one of their best. It doesn't have Fear the Reaper on it, or Joan Crawford has risen from the grave, being one of those well-known albums. I fell in love with this album in probably 86, 87, maybe even as early as 85. I was going through a hardcore Blue Oyster Cult kick, and everybody else was going through Anthrax. Of course, I was too. Slayer, Metallica. But these guys were weird, man. I mean, they had some weird lyrics. They were, to me, as far as rock and roll goes, especially at the time, and to my availability, one of the weirder bands out there. But I call them space rock? No. But this was, I don't know, more of a psychedelic album. You know, it's hard to say. It's almost like psychedelic. I hesitate to say dance, but I'm not sure really what was going through their minds when they made this thing. But it's got great songs. In the Mirrors, Moon Crazy, I Am the Storm, Lonely Teardrops. This, I don't know, it's hard to say. This may be my favorite Blue Oyster Cult album. And in that's saying a lot, man. It has special memories. I just remember being a teenager and driving around listening to it on a cassette. Bought it for $2.99 at like Walmart or something. Let's see what else we got. Another one everybody should know, or at least heard of. Some more metal. Crocus. I had lots of air guitar jams in my bedroom with this one. This was such a great album. And what's kind of funny is this came from the Columbia Record Club. I think I might have another one in there too. Oh, I was looking at a Triumph album earlier, so that may have made it in there. But this this album here, as you can see, the back's pretty classic. This was at the height of their popularity. Headhunter, probably their best-known album, with songs like Eat the Rich, Screaming in the Night, Night Wolf, Russian Winter. Oh, jeez. And you know what? I haven't played it in maybe 6 months, and I just pulled it out for this little show. It's going to get played tonight, and it's going to get played loud. Got a couple more. This is more of a triple album. One is a single, the other one's a double. And this goes off on the weirdness scale. And it's Joe's Garage. And if you haven't checked it out, we all know who Zappa is. Do it. This first album takes a little bit to get into, but my God. I mean, the guy, he truly is a genius. And when you're listening to the songs, you're thinking, how did he do that? How can he fit that into rock and roll? How can humor fit into rock and roll? And it just does. So I had this one and pretty much wore it out. And then recently picked up this one, which is parts 2 and 3. I don't really care for part 2. It gets a little bizarre. I mean, maybe I have to listen to it another 500 times, and that's what you have to do with Zappa. You have to listen to him a lot. You know, I mean, just kind of look at his inside. I don't know where all this stuff was coming. You know, supposedly he didn't do drugs, and he only smoked pot 10 times in his life, so he was just a bizarre individual. But I count those as one since it's kind of a triple album. Check it out. I picked this up recently, and we all know Neil Young. They just released this, and they called it Tonight's Tonight Actate, which means this is the way that it was supposed to have been before the record company got to. Before the record company got to it. It's got a combination of songs from Tonight's the Night and On the Beach, and there's in a different order, and there's different cuts on this, and it sounds good. If you're familiar with both those albums, it's just kind of like a combination of both those albums, and it comes in clear vinyl. I don't know really where this came from. I mean, it could be a bootleg. I don't know if it's real, the story's real. I just found it in a record store and picked it up. It's quite good. What is it any better than Tonight's Tonight or On the Beach? Either one of those? No. I mean, you got to listen to each one of those separately, but it's neat to have. It's Neil Young and it's different. It's probably something you hadn't heard of. That's one reason why I picked this one. I have a lot of Neil Young. And so that kind of concludes the Back to Basics. I do have my dollar item, and it's kind of cheating here because I got a really, really good deal on a cool album, and it cost $1. Probably about 3 years ago I was digging, and I don't know why it was in the dollar bin, or it was a dollar room, and I picked it up, and it's worth more than maybe $5, in today's standards, but it's a keeper. I won't even have to talk to you about it, but since this is Back to Basics, I just wanted to pick albums that we all knew. This was a dollar album. And it's not a blemish on it. I don't know how it got in there, and it sounds as good as it did back in the mid '70s. When we were all going through our prog period. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this. The next show, I'm bringing out the big guns. I'm going to bring out some hardcore space rock for you. And after all, that's what the show is about. Or any of these shows. There's a lot of people that are talking about vinyl, and it's about exploration. It's about turning you on to new stuff. It's about you, the music lover, learning about new genres of music, or exploring artists that you might not explore otherwise unless someone told you about them. So you guys have a great night, and we will catch you on the next Lock Grooves.